It's always been a good little community. There hasn't been what you call a whole lot of chaos, has it, Lord? Never has been. Everybody knows everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce the governor of the state of Texas, the Republican candidate for the next president of the United States, and the newest citizen of our great city of Crawford, George W. Bush.
Why did President Bush choose to move here?
You know, that's $1 million question. I have no idea.
He was about to run for the presidency, and he was going to have to be from somewhere more than just the governor's mansion, I think.
When you've lived in a small town and you see it die away like we had seen Crawford, and you see an opportunity come along, you get excited.
The day that come out in the paper that President Bush is going to buy a place here, every one of our buildings are down Main Street. Every one of them's been rented ever since.
My middle son spends the day with Harry Fletcher, press secretary of the President of the United States.
It's funny, you'll go in that little town and there's one stoplight, there's about 3 places where you can buy Bush souvenirs, and you go down 4 blocks or make a left, and there's 6 satellite trucks and national reporters, and they're all doing the exact same shot. It's hilarious to me that they do that and they get away with it.
A couple bales of hay and a broke down shed in the background. That's all they really see, so that's all they really know.
A lot of the people that live in Crawford kind of assume that everybody thinks the same, and that's very conservatively. I don't.
They make you try to fit this mold, especially as soon as Bush got here.
I don't know how you support the military and their families and say y'all are being idiots for being over there.
I'm not a Bush supporter. I can't really say that out loud because then everybody's like, are you a terrorist, son?
You got them lowlifes sitting up here running down our troops.
It comes down to who can you believe. Could you believe Bush if he told you anything? Our answer was no.
It's almost like an agenda against our president. I don't agree with that agenda.
To have us almost just thrown out of town, that's going a little bit too far, I think.
When George Bush said, my son would sacrifice for a noble cause, I thought, I'm going to Crawford and ask him what that noble cause was.
He says, what would Jesus bomb?
Freedom sounds free. Freedom sounds free.
We lost the war in the 60s because the silent majority stayed silent. We've learned our lesson. We're not going to let this happen to these troops. At this point, it's like, I don't care what your support, I don't like you.
We came to Crawford to ruin his vacation.
50 years ago, she'd been hung for treason.
We're so sick of it. Go away.
Not in our names. Not in our names.
The institutions the British state had set out to tell lies.
The biggest demonstration coordinated in the history of the whole Earth.
It was off the hook. Something began on that day that cannot be reversed.
A mass, beautiful movement that's going to stop them from dropping those bombs.
We had something like 60% of the American people believing that Saddam Hussein was connected with 9/11.
They blatantly lied to all of us.
The rallies of February 15th followed the sun.
It was Australia, it was Sydney.
North Asia and South Asia, Africa, into Europe.
And then we had London.
I thought I was on the wrong march because there were all these families. Virtually everybody I know was on it.
The whole of my family went on it.
It was so beautiful.
This was the future of humanity.
They can't hold us back! Bush, you can't hold us back!
Fellow Americans, let's roll.
This bastard is actually going to take us to war.
The American people do not want this!
It was over.
Back off!
Our victory, not theirs.
War criminal! War criminal! Arrest this man!
These were lies. They can take their medals back.
That's when hell broke loose in Egypt. If you keep coming back, at some point you will make the change.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. Final proof. We must smoke on gun.
Nuclear
Weapons of mass destruction. There's only one way to disarm him: the use of force.
Any country with an active intelligence program knows that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
Ground-penetrating radar equipment was used. No chemical or biological production or storage were found.
Now, I know some would play like they're not real. I'm telling you, they're real. 16 U.S. intelligence agencies all said he was not an imminent threat to the security of this country. Given the offense of September the 11th, we know we could not trust Saddam Hussein. The findings of the 9/11 Commission showed that Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11.
We're going to war with Iraq. I said, why? He said, I don't know.
George Bush and his people took this nation to war in Iraq on a lie under false pretenses. We're talking about murder. I don't like to see anyone get away with murder.
Vincent Bugliosi will be forever known as the man who prosecuted and put Charles Manson behind bars.
There's no prosecutor I would want to have if I were innocent more than Vince, and there's no prosecutor I'd fear more if I were guilty.
The Bush administration has gotten away with thousands of murders, and we, the American people, cannot let them do this.
Can a president be prosecuted for activities undertaken while in office? And I think the answer to that is very simple, and it's yes.
The day we found out that he had died, I got so furious. For what? Why are they dead? George Bush murdered my son.
I propose a criminal investigation of the Bush administration to determine whether first-degree murder charges should be brought against certain members of this administration.
Nobody has tried really to explain what that conspiracy theory is. It is just alluded to.
My son died in the middle of these people's decisions.
The president defrauded the American public.
President of the United States? Guilty of mass murder? What are you talking about?
There is a massive marketing effort to sell war to the American people and package it as a grave and gathering danger.
Chairman, the gentleman is talking about classified information.
Bush does not have immunity from prosecution for murder once he leaves office.
He will get at the truth.
The North Tower of the World Trade Center collapses to the ground in approximately 10 seconds. 200,000 tons of steel, 160 yards, 43,647 steel box columns, and we are told that these massive structures were destroyed by 10,000 gallons of jet fuel.
We have found explosive material in the dust. Now the next step is to find out who did it.
Building 7, a 47-story office building hundreds of feet away, burns controllably over a few floors and suffers structural damage to its south face before collapsing completely to the ground at near free fall speed.
All this time, I'm hearing all types of explosions. And the firefighter that took us down kept saying, "Do not look down."
Although the collapse of Building 7 was clearly a phenomenon and further investigation was needed, the building's steel was removed from the site and destroyed. 9:37 a.m., Arlington, Virginia. American Airlines Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. An amateur pilot who was unable to control a Cessna in August 2001 executed this nearly impossible maneuver in a 757 with skilled precision a month later. To date, we have not seen a single piece positively identified as Flight 77's. 10:03 a.m., Shanksville, Pennsylvania. United Airlines Flight 93 allegedly crashes into an abandoned strip mine at 580 miles per hour.
Any large pieces of debris at all? No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
There is zero historical precedent for a large commercial airplane and its passengers completely disintegrating upon impact, regardless of speed, cause, or crash site. September 11th was not just a terrible tragedy that took the lives of thousands of innocent people. It was a violent and aggressive seizure of power and a transformation of both foreign and domestic policy. It was an American coup.
We saw the towers fall to ashes like they were laced with bombs. And ever since we've been at war like Genghis, calm and fetus for a fascist world state. An Orwellian nightmare will write a strip bare, give the pan for the future of wiretaps, cameras on every corner, blackwater sharpshooters with scopes locked on ya. The Patriot Act has us watching our backs in front, like they're here to save us while they're on the attack. And we act like we didn't see it coming from a nation built by theft and genocide. Gonna down opposition, listen, worldwide is well known that America will eat its soul. So long to what you thought was democratic. These times are catastrophic, cause war is a means to profit. Control and manipulate the masses, it's classic evil.
Professor Cohen is also an advisor to the Pentagon and has been involved with both the AEI and the Project for the New American Century.
The idea that this is all a conspiracy whipped up by a group of, quotes, neoconservative hawks who are somehow allied to Israel, and you've expressed worries about that. Explain what you're concerned about.
Look, sometimes the word neoconservative is used when what they really would like to say is Jew.
More than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violations. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and or explosive ordnance units.
Two suspects are in FBI custody after a truckload of explosives was discovered around the George Washington Bridge.
Sheriff is the man who oversees the Department of Homeland Security. Prior to that, he oversaw the Criminal Division of the Department of Justice from July of 2001.
Evidence linking these Israelis to 911 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information.
To those who scare peace-loving people with phantoms of lost liberty, my message is this: your tactics only aid terrorists.
America was in shock. As we sifted through the rubble in the weeks that followed 9/11, the country was terrified that another attack could occur at any moment from any quarter. The Bush administration quickly began to push through sweeping policy changes.
Before anyone had a chance to understand what went wrong, he proposed fixes that went far beyond fighting terrorism. The bill was printed at 3:45 a.m. the morning before the vote on the House floor. You tell me how many of the 435 members of Congress had a chance between 3:45 a.m. and 11 a.m. to read a bill that was 345 pages long.
No member of Congress read this legislation before it was voted on. Not a one.
This legislation is essential not only to pursuing and punishing terrorists, but also preventing more atrocities in the hands of the evil ones.
President Bush quickly signed the Patriot Act into law. It was only the beginning.